The universe had plans of its own. He charmed me at a solar eclipse, promising safety while hiding fears of inadequacy. "I can't lose you," he whispered, then slipped away, leaving my heart shattered. Regret and growth intertwined, but can love survive betrayal? Last April, life unfolded its own plans that diverged from mine, so I chose to embrace uncertainty and the unexpected. The moment I made that choice, happiness and connection welcomed me in return, as did he. He used the solar eclipse as an opportunity to ask for my phone number, and it was my favorite way that any man had ever obtained it. Consequently, my initial impression of him was that he was sweet and charming. He came equipped with a treasure chest full of random facts and questions, which I found adorable. He noticed the small details, and I appreciated that. Later on, however, he revealed to me that he was also a subtle critic, but in the most enjoyable way. He is a natural comedian, making wit appear effortless. I was thrilled to discover that his treasure chest also contained jokes, as I love to laugh, and I genuinely liked that he seemed to enjoy making me laugh. Life at that time was challenging. It involved literal labor. However, he put in extra effort to gain my attention, as if winning me over was a worthy prize he was striving to earn. I cherished that amidst the chaos, we shared many deep belly laughs, the kind where we would laugh so hard that we could only manage to gasp for air. He reminded me that two seemingly contradictory truths could coexist. Life can be difficult while simultaneously overflowing with joy and love. I felt a sense of pride when people assumed we were married or remarked on the chemistry we shared, which seemed to radiate as if we were high school sweethearts, even though we had not been together for long. To me, we were not just a couple. We were also good friends, and it felt heartwarming when others recognized that. I grew comfortable and safe with him, not because he promised me safety by locking our eyes and pinkies, but because he demonstrated it. I loved that he was so thoughtful with both his words and his touch. He was there for me not just when I desired his presence, but also when I didn't actively need him, which is how he became my refuge. When I slept beside him, enveloped in the security of his arms, comforted by his scent and warmth, I felt that what we had was genuine. I trusted that closeness. It provided me with peace of mind. It allowed us to be ourselves in front of each other, safe to share our secrets without fear of judgment. I felt liberated knowing I did not have to conceal myself from him, like I was no longer trapped inside my own skin. And when he looked at me in my complete vulnerability with his stunning blue eyes, so electric that they could make the ocean envious, I felt desired and beautiful. I admired him, his beauty, his intellect, his spirit, and his aspirations. I wanted to shower him with affection and kisses to cover his insecurities. Regarding the more complex struggles he faced, I perceived his vulnerability as a form of strength. I once heard a quote, "I met your shadows and I didn't mind what I saw. We all at times learn to dance with the devil on our way to heaven." As long as he was not intentionally cruel to anyone, nothing he could have shared or revealed would frighten me or alter how beautiful I believed him to be. My decision to be his girlfriend was not born out of necessity, but because I wanted him simply for who he was. That choice was my way of demonstrating that I genuinely accepted him, removing any doubt he might have about my intentions or any concern over competing for my attention. I remained loyal to him and committed to our relationship. He expressed feeling like he had little to offer me beyond his presence and the promise to keep me safe. If I could have, I would have shared my eyes and my heart with him so that he could see how much I valued his talents and innate gifts. I wholeheartedly believe in his potential as a man to achieve his goals. My wish was simply to join him, fostering trust and shared purpose so we could grow alongside each other rather than just existing in parallel. Thus, his happiness and well-being became my priority, and I trusted that mine was intertwined with his. Time is incredibly precious, and I do not take it for granted that he contributed some of his to enhance my joy. He devoted time to helping me feel supported, emotionally safe, and loved. When he was positioned between my thighs, his unique key unlocked my ecstasy. He empowered me. His presence represented the other half of our connection, and connection infuses time with meaning and intent. Presence, connection, and love flourish and deepen within safety. So if he saw it that way, he provided for me. While he considered genuine safety a modest offering, it was immensely powerful and meant everything to me. I missed the connection and happiness we shared when all our attention was focused on each other and our aspirations. It seems connection can be trickier to maintain than I initially realized, especially when fear acts as its adversary. I believed I was witnessing a man ready to create something real, someone who had learned from his past and desired to evolve into a healthier, stronger version of himself. He approached me with warmth, intensity, and deliberate words that painted a future where I was his wife. What I could not discern at the time was that his affection was cloaked in fear. Fear of inadequacy, fear of rejection, fear of me encountering aspects of him that he could not accept in himself. His insecurities led him to believe that I would not accept him as he was, someone with mistakes in his past and financial struggles that made him feel diminished. But his fear was misleading. The truth is, had he taken the time he needed, we could have cultivated a friendship organically, without assumptions or judgments. The attraction and connection between us were natural and would have remained if we had desired it. Instead of being honest and trusting both himself and me to accept him as he was, he presented a fantasy of himself. He showcased the best aspects of his personality in such a way that would prevent me from rejecting him. In his mind, he was not attempting to deceive me out of malice. Ironically, he was trying to give himself a chance to be seen and loved. However, by manipulating my perception of him, he robbed himself of the ability to feel secure in knowing that he was enough for me as he truly was. While his lack of transparency instilled doubt within me, I empathized with the reality that everyone harbors fears and insecurities, and I trusted that he had grown from his past. I reminded myself that we cannot always control the timing of when we meet someone extraordinary or how we navigate difficult conversations early on. To my face, he had always been good to me, and we communicated effectively, which made me want to be understanding and demonstrate that he was safe with me. After he revealed the fuller picture, I felt quietly taken aback. It became apparent that he had a pattern of coping with challenging or painful situations by avoiding his feelings through distractions that left unresolved issues, dragging him backward rather than propelling him forward. I cared deeply for him, yet this was the first instance I questioned whether he could safeguard my heart. Ironically, his insecurities made me feel as though I had to demonstrate my love for him, so I supported and encouraged him. I adjusted to his needs, even when he did not reciprocate that adjustment for me. When he broke down in his car one morning before work, it pained me to see him in tears. I noticed he was overwhelmed with frustration and disappointment from his attempts to move forward, yet he seemed stuck. I knew he felt embarrassed about struggling financially. After we lost our jobs, he confided in me about longing for how he had felt in the past. I could hear the pride in his voice when he talked about his ability to provide and enjoy life. I also sensed the hurt and frustration beneath the surface. It became increasingly noticeable that his past, filled with what-ifs, occupied so much space in his mind that there was little room to concentrate on his present. It was as if the pain of what could have been was more distressing than the pain of what actually was. I could imagine how unbearable it must have felt for him to believe that he could still have that or even more if he had only acted differently. He possessed everything he desired. He was a version of himself that brought him satisfaction, in contrast to the present version which left him dissatisfied. I understand why he would want to return to a time when life felt stable. I think the pressure of feeling behind and the urgency to avoid wasting time on meaningless pursuits felt suffocating, making him desperate to break free. I comprehend how intense regret can be and how it can incite a rush to amend past wrongs. When he revealed that he felt so low that he drove 100 miles per hour down back roads, seeking the adrenaline rush to lift his spirits, I was concerned. I thought about how overwhelmed he must have felt to shut down to the extent that such actions were necessary for him to uplift himself. I began to wonder about some of his habits and whether his choices were more about evading or numbing his feelings, rather than seeking healthy and positive alternatives. I was uncertain about where I fit in. I had not realized the depth of his grieving for his former self and the weight of guilt, regret, and confusion he was carrying. When we met, we both sought understanding and care, and I feel we provided that for each other, which is beautiful. He may have expressed thoughts without grasping the weight of his words. He wanted to be the kind of man who would keep me safe and never abandon me, but telling me that meant more to me than he likely recognized. His words touched a profound wound I had carried since I was a 10-year-old girl. I did not understand why my father did not want to be my dad. My grandfather did, and when he passed away, my genuine sense of safety evaporated, and I have yearned to feel it again since then. Whenever I was in his parents' home, I always experienced a warm joy around his family. They are all wonderful and impossible not to love. I missed my own family, and I was so starved for affection that I clung to the warmth I felt simply from being around them. The manner in which he expressed love towards me seemed as if he understood my heart's deepest longings. There were numerous synchronicities and signs that made it seem like he was the one. I had been living on hope for quite some time, so I wanted to believe he was my blessing. I can now see that was an immense amount of unspoken expectation to place upon a man. Every facet of my life was in crisis. I had a health issue and I felt overwhelming pressure to find a better paying job. I was financially drowning, yet I needed to secure a safer situation for my mother and myself. I also felt a desperate urge to resolve all of this before it impacted our relationship. I was physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually drained. The reality of my circumstances made it challenging not to feel frightened and embrace uncertainty. I struggled to discuss it because I did not want to tarnish our relationship. I wanted him to perceive me as his shelter in his storm. On a deeper level, I felt ashamed. Truthfully, before him, I felt hesitant to believe in someone who promised to want all of me because my entirety included the painful, shameful, or unrelatable parts I typically keep hidden. My past had shown me that people do not always protect what I offer. They often use it to inflict hurt. I experienced neglect or disappointment when I needed support the most, which led me to become emotionally self-sufficient to the extent that fully opening up and expressing my needs felt unnatural to me. I did not know how to rely on another person. I only understood how to be relied upon. However, when I believed he placed his trust in me, it prompted me to take the same leap of faith, allowing myself to trust him, convincing myself he would not be another challenge I needed to survive. I felt as though I finally had a partner. We were far from perfect. We were simply two individuals trying to navigate life together. All the plans we made kept me hopeful. I endeavored to create space for moments of joy during the difficult times because I knew they would eventually pass, especially since we had each other. Yet somewhere along the way, I relinquished my complete trust that everything would be all right. Fear took control, but at the time I could not recognize that the stress was triggering my deepest fears and insecurities. I was racing too fast in survival mode, and we never discussed our fears or how we needed to give and receive love and support. Therefore, when he felt lost and overwhelmed, I loved him in my own language, not in his, and instead of navigating through it together, he chose to avoid it and retreat, ultimately breaking my heart instead of his cycle. When I felt lost and overwhelmed, it would have been advantageous for me to have greater emotional maturity, empathy, support, and accountability surrounding me. I needed his strength to pause and recognize when I was not acting like myself. I hoped he would love me for who I truly am, not just for how I made him feel or for what I provided, even if I would have willingly given him whatever he desired. He perceived our differences as revolving around politics or lifestyle, but it was never genuinely about that. It was about safety. Some of his actions and beliefs triggered me because they revealed his capacity to rationalize a lack of integrity, evade accountability, and disconnect from empathy. Hence, when challenges arose, it activated my most profound fear of abandonment. I remained silent, yet within I felt confused and unsettled. I was uncertain about what was real. When I should have communicated, I withheld my thoughts to protect his confidence. Instead of processing our issues together and articulating my needs calmly and clearly, I reacted from a place of intense fear. I tested him by persuasively urging him to leave while simultaneously wanting him to stay. I was in search of reassurance and sought it unhealthily. On a deeper level, I thought suggesting someone from his past would grant me a semblance of control over the pain, rather than feeling powerless if he departed on his own accord. When I encouraged him to reach out to her, he was already struggling mentally and emotionally. If he intended to approach our relationship differently, my push only contributed to his confusion and regret. I also failed to consider her feelings, such as how she may have healed and grown since their time together, and how hearing from him while he was with another woman and struggling would hardly qualify as a grand gesture of love, but rather exploitative. I know I did not avoid the pain. I inadvertently attracted it sooner because I forced the issue before events could naturally unfold. Once I recognized my actions, I wanted to work through things with him. I was willing to stay even if it meant discomfort so that we could ultimately become comfortable. However, by that time, he had chosen to leave. After everything, he claimed he had let her go for her own happiness, yet he had initially left her when he became involved with me, not prior. Lying is a practice. It requires effort and deliberation. Being unfaithful demands just as much intentionality as being faithful. It may not be premeditated, but it is never an occurrence that happens spontaneously. It is a choice from the very moment that thought crosses our minds. It appeared he prioritized what was easier or felt good for him in those moments over what was ultimately healthy for both him and his partner in the long term. I know he dealt with the aftermath. This is not about assigning blame or labeling him. I express this because it highlighted a pattern of avoiding uncomfortable feelings instead of confronting them, and it devastated me to my core. I do not believe he intentionally set out to hurt me. However, I feel he did not exert sufficient effort to avoid hurting me either. I sensed that my trust, which took immense courage for me to extend to him, held little significance for him, so he could not even be bothered to discuss how he was feeling with me as he had in the past, or so I thought he had. Instead, it seems that betraying me during a particularly vulnerable time in my life was a more convenient choice for him. He told me he lied for my sake, but I believe it was to safeguard his self-image. The manner in which he went about concluding our relationship through deceit, gradual avoidance, disconnection, and gaslighting made me feel as though I was not someone with whom he shared a genuine connection or respect. His actions conveyed that he perceived me as having no value in his life, discarding me as if I were a worthless old toy. Since we began dating shortly after meeting, I knew him solely as my affectionate boyfriend. He consistently acted as though I were incredibly special to him. Then within weeks, he behaved as if I had turned him off and informed me that he had never been in love with me. I could not comprehend what was occurring because I literally did not recognize him. I had never encountered the version of him that expressed a desire to lose me. I was content simply engaging in my own life when he approached and sought my attention. I was not desperate for his validation. My only request was for sincerity in his intentions. I complied with all his requests. I placed my heart, my body, my peace, and my goals in his hands because I believed in his promise to handle them with care. We invested time. We discussed building dreams. I even became enthusiastic about trying a cruise. Those were plans he initiated but lacked the intent to nurture. And while he assured me I would be all right and sent me away, I have been left to piece together the remnants of something he dismantled. As I reconstruct those pieces, whether I felt joy, unworthiness, fear, or love, he did not create those emotions in me. He simply brought them to the surface and held a mirror up, reflecting the beautiful parts of myself and the areas still seeking healing. It is easy to slip into regret. However, I have come to realize that regret only emerges when we resist the outcome we have been dealt, believing it should have unfolded differently. It can feel consuming, relentless, even akin to love due to its intensity. Yet regret anchors us in the past. In contrast, love invites us to heal and evolve. I do not believe what transpired between us was about right or wrong choices or even the presence or absence of love. I know we genuinely cared for one another. At that moment, we made the only choices we were capable of making based on our respective states of being. I recognize that how we feel inside shapes everything outside of us. We carry our inner worlds into every success, every vacation, and every loving relationship, none of which will ever be stable or fulfilling unless we are rooted in truth with ourselves. That is what enables us to receive and sustain the good things in life. Our relationship brought my deepest desires and fears to light. It reminded me of the warmth I offer, the depth of my love, and the areas in which I can grow. And that is what true love does. It compels us to seek the truth. It demands accountability, integration, and the embodiment of the lessons we have learned. It would have been powerful, even empowering, to evolve through all of those levels side by side. However, we cannot control time or outcomes. All I can do is honor time. To me, it is never wasted when it is revered. I honored my time by living in the present, being sincere in my authenticity and intentions, and remaining open to growth. In that way, I do not believe I deprived myself of a meaningful experience or lesson by avoiding the truth. Therefore, it was not a waste of time for me. I do love him and his beautiful family, and a part of my love for him involves honoring our closure. I do not wish to forget or pretend that I have stopped loving him. Rather, in my heart, he will remain while I evolve in honor of what we shared. I will become wiser, grow, and move forward, not by clinging to the past, but by utilizing its lessons to live a happier and more spiritually aligned life. With all my loves. Story 2. She called my husband her husband at my wedding, leaving guests horrified. For years, I supported her through her dramas, but her jealousy spiraled into a toxic friendship. You can't be close to anyone else, she insisted. I finally cut ties. What a relief. What happened next? Hello, everyone. This will be my venting space for several situations that have occurred. If you happen to know the Muslim TikTok influencer I am referring to, please remember that the topics she discusses are significant, such as Palestine. The message should not be overlooked. However, she is still a human being, and just because she is online does not excuse her from being a terrible person. Additionally, this is a repost, as I had originally posted it to another thread, but my novice Reddit user self-deleted it. We were friends for nearly a decade. We lived together in London, though only for a brief period before homesickness and the exorbitant cost of living forced us back home. We traveled together, spending thousands of pounds on trips, and even started a business. Now in our mid-20s, all my friends felt the pressure of marriage within the Muslim community. The pool of serious Muslim men was limited, and I had been searching for some time. Finding someone who accepted my health condition proved to be a challenge, as most Muslim men were not open to it. However, I eventually met someone who did. He had met my parents, and they granted their blessing. I did not inform her about my future husband due to her previous meddling. I may discuss this in another post. Additionally, she had lied to me in the past when I asked if she was envious that a few of our friends were in serious talking stages. She said no, but told another friend she was. This made many of her actions and comments seem more sinister. I genuinely believe she came from a place of spite. If she could not find happiness, then she was more than capable of sabotaging others. She has done this before, so I do not put it past her. To clarify, I asked her if she was uncomfortable or jealous because a few of us were discussing relationships, as I just wanted to ensure she was okay. When my now mother-in-law passed away, I asked her to take me to see her body. It was a long drive and I was distressed, thus driving alone was not the best idea. She was unable to take me, which I did not mind, and I arranged for different transportation, but she learned for the first time that I was seeing someone. I can understand the surprise, but she had previously said not to tell her until it was certain. She treated this information as gossip, casually sharing it with our other friends as though it were juicy news. I never gave her permission to disclose it. When the time came to announce my engagement to my friends, it was not surprising because she had already revealed it. I am saddened that she robbed me of that experience to share my joyful news. She also made abhorrent comments about my mother-in-law. At least she's dead, you don't have to deal with a mother-in-law. A woman had died and that was all she could say. Islamically, one should offer condolences or remain silent. However, she showed no respect. My mother-in-law was a single mother and an exceptional one at that. Her life was filled with hardship. I would loathe to endure all that only for someone to trivialize my life to a mother-in-law stereotype. Furthermore, I know she would not appreciate someone saying that about her own mother. My fiancé at the time was actively grieving, and I was trying to figure out how to support him. It was an incredibly challenging time for us all. She repeated this comment so many times that I lost count, and she even said it to me at the wedding venue. Also, to clarify, not everyone has negative experiences with in-laws. You receive what both parties invest. Just because she is uncomfortable does not mean that everyone else shares her experience. Bridal shower. She attended my bridal shower. My older sister and brother-in-law encouraged me to invite her to all events so she would not create drama among our mutual friends or wish the evil eye upon my marriage. They stated that realistically, after I married and moved away, I would not see her again and there was no need to address her past behavior. I thought that after this, I would slowly fade out of her life, no drama, just distance. However, even then, she could not behave. She interrupted conversations whenever I mentioned my fiancé, as if to say, "You haven't come to my bridal shower." Did the name not give her a hint regarding the topic? When my fiancé wished to say a brief hello to the group, she refused, citing her previous meddling as the reason she could not be trusted to say hello to a partner. I had done the same to his friends. Moreover, it was not about him getting to know her, it was merely a quick greeting for everyone present. Meanwhile, she went on and on about her own relationship problems at my bridal shower. No, we do not want to hear about the same man who treated you poorly for years and whom you keep unblocking. He was also engaged to someone else the entire time. When I was on FaceTime with my mother and sisters selecting beads for bracelet making, she demanded that I end the call with them. I corrected her, stating that they were my mother and sisters. She also called my husband gay for his interest in making bracelets, but when another friend's husband wanted to do the same, she said nothing. This is a normal date activity that couples engage in. What makes the bracelet feminine if he chooses a design that is more masculine? Additionally, it is simply enjoyable to partake in something creative with your partner. She said, "That's so gay, my man could never." What man? She also made a big fuss about payment. I noticed but attempted to ignore it. I felt as though she hijacked my bridal shower regardless. She remained invited to the other events and I thought, my wedding is a week away. I am just going to ignore her rather than uninvite her since that would cause drama, especially as her parents were guests too. So I let it be. By the way, I am less confrontational in the moment. Also, I was genuinely excited to marry my husband and did not care about other people, so yes, I acknowledge the disrespect, but there is no way I would initiate an argument around my wedding time. Moreover, she is loud and confrontational. It would undoubtedly end with her causing a scene. I was never going to give her that power. Gift-making day. She visited my home when we were creating gifts for my husband and said, "The shoes are actually quite nice, but I am surprised because I didn't think he had a sense of style." You have only seen one picture of my husband at this point. How did you conclude that? Calm down. It was not merely the individual comments, but rather when combined I could see she was bitter. The Mandy Hannah nights. At my Mandy she was asked to give a speech. It was last minute due to the sound system failing and we were trying to fill the time while my family member scrambled to fix the music. The suggestion to include her came from the MC in the moment, my nephew, but had it been planned I would have told him not to choose her. She had experience with public speaking and was confident, which is why my family member selected her. In front of my family, extended relatives, friends, and new in-laws, she stood up and said, "Your husband is my husband, me and her come as a package deal, we are sisters." She repeated the "my husband" statement around 5 times. It was captured on video and witnessed by everyone in the room. My family was horrified, my in-laws were horrified. Guests later approached to apologize on her behalf, but her shameless self laughed and took her seat as if she had done well. My husband was informed of what she had said by his 10 family members and was disgusted. Furthermore, after he viewed the footage, he remarked that she resembled Jeffree Star and that he would not want her anywhere near him. Her eye makeup was alarming. Everyone was appalled. However, I did not react because I understood exactly what she wanted attention. She rambled on about how we were close and like sisters, yet the reality was that even she could tell that for an entire year I had distanced myself from her. This was intentional as I no longer trusted her. The wedding day. On wedding day, she monopolized the conversation at her table, speaking over everyone. My guests later expressed their regret for having sat with her. I could only apologize to them. I was mortified that I had empowered this narcissist. Post-wedding. A few weeks later, she accused me of discussing her. I had been too occupied with getting married, starting a new job, selling my house, and relocating to a new town. Yet she was furious. It felt strange because I had consciously avoided bringing her up. Deep down, a part of me still valued the years of friendship we had shared. However, as harsh as it sounds, I thought she would likely end up alone due to her demeanor with no friends or romantic relationships. That would suffice as justice for me. She had already lost 3/4 of her friends over the past few years, and each of those breakups had been dramatic, where she invariably portrayed herself as the victim. 3/4 is a pattern, and you must be the issue since we do not all know each other. Moreover, she has experienced several failed relationships where people claimed she is too much. She would cry that they did not want to commit, but she is so standoffish that most men would likely fear introducing her to their parents. She does not possess a very adaptable personality either, and she is excessively clingy. She would assert that they must accept her as she is. However, what she is annoying and excessive. Also, religiously, I wanted God to deal with her malicious tongue and jealousy. However, at that moment when she accused me of speaking ill of her, I realized something. I no longer cared about our friendship. Perhaps I had not cared about her for quite some time. I blocked her. Before it is brought up why I did not approach her with my concerns to see if she would change, I did so in the past when she had hurt me, and she subsequently claimed that I made her mental health worse by discussing the past which she could not alter. I had never felt so gaslit. She also went on to list all my faults and then claimed that I was envious of her. I knew she would never accept accountability from that moment onward. I saw her for who she truly was, a false victim, a narcissist, a selfish, jealous person who never once had my best interest at heart. She embarrassed me at my wedding, making me feel awful during what should have been the happiest time of my life. And for what? She was always the first to take offense, yet never seemed to recognize when she hurt others. Her control issues. She even went so far as to say, "I am possessive over you." She expressed that she did not want me or another friend to become too close, fearing we would exclude her. She was insecure in friendships. She referred to me as though I was a toy to possess. The truth is, only God has authority over me, not this weirdo. Throughout our friendship, I felt as though I was shouldering partner-like responsibilities, even though I never agreed to that role. I constantly listened to her problems and supported her as she made poor decisions in life. Our other friends even noted that she viewed me as her boyfriend, suggesting that she might leave me alone if she found a man. I prayed that she would, so she would become someone else's problem. Thank God she is gone. Story 3. Married at 25, 6 weeks postpartum and questioning my worth, maybe I'm the bad person. After years of toxic love, my husband now blames me for his misfortunes. Can I break this cycle for my daughter's sake, or am I destined for heartache? I never believed I was perfect, but I thought I at least made an effort to be good. Now I am uncertain. I am a 25-year-old female who got married this year to my now husband, a 27-year-old male with whom I recently had a daughter 6 weeks ago. Our relationship has been tumultuous almost from the beginning, but I thought I could improve it. Now I just do not know anymore. I will attempt to be concise, but in order to provide a clear understanding of the mess that constitutes my life, I need to start a few years back. Every relationship I have been in until now has been chaotic. The first man I dated was a compulsive liar, and being too young to trust my instincts, I wanted to believe him. I had just finished school, was feeling depressed, and we met while playing video games online. He professed his love for me and expressed his desire to come to Germany. He was from the United States to live with me. He booked a flight and I found an apartment for us, paid for everything, and moved out of my father's home. My relationship with my father was already strained, and that decision pushed it to the brink. We lost all contact following that. To support us, I exhausted all the money I inherited after my mother passed away. He promised he would repay me. Why didn't I work? Honestly, I am not sure. Why didn't he work? I do not know either. After a few months, he decided it would be better for us to move to America where he had family and better job opportunities. So we packed all our belongings and booked a flight there. I met his family, and we stayed at his parents' house until I needed to return to Germany after 3 months. He stated he wanted to marry me so I could stay there with him and we would sort everything out, so I left most of my possessions with him and flew back to Germany alone. Then he began to ignore me. He got his life back in order over there, making empty promises until he had drained me emotionally. And then eventually, when I could no longer tolerate the situation, he completely stopped communicating. I did not receive anything back from him despite his promises. I did not even retrieve my belongings. All I had were a few clothes and a suitcase. I moved back in with my father out of necessity, found a job, and once I saved enough, managed to get my own apartment. Then the next boyfriend entered my life. We met on a dating app. He was also American and stationed a few hours away. I did many foolish things for him because I genuinely loved him despite everything. From the onset, he indicated that I was not his type and often grew upset with himself for not being able to love me more. I continued to visit him every weekend, once again spending all the money I earned from my job on a man who did not truly love me in an attempt to win his affection. He was aware that he was leading me on and felt guilty about it, which gave me enough hope to keep thinking that perhaps one day he would love me too. I cooked for him, cleaned his apartment, fulfilled his requests, and aimed to be the perfect girlfriend. He had obsessive-compulsive disorder, a short temper, and a self-destructive nature with a hint of narcissism. It was like handling a live grenade, and it exploded in my face on several occasions. The good moments were truly wonderful, but the bad ones were simply dreadful. He kicked me out a few times as well. I continually apologized for things that I knew were not my fault, just in an effort to make things right. I wanted to fix him. When we argued, it was always related to his obsessive-compulsive disorder. A minor incident could lead to, "You are making that face again. Stop looking at me. Just leave me alone. You ruined my weekend," all in a confined space with nowhere for me to escape. Sometimes it would escalate to him throwing objects and destroying his own possessions. I was always on edge, attempting to do everything correctly while anticipating his anger. It only exacerbated the situation, but I could not find a way to relax. When his time in Germany was ending, he expressed a desire to stay, but he still had doubts about our relationship. I told him that if things did not work out, I would assist him in getting settled, so we prepared everything for him to move in with me. On the moving day, I was working late, and he was supposed to bring over the last of his belongings. Instead, I returned home to an empty apartment. He did not answer when I attempted to call him either. Only when he was back in America did he respond, apologizing and saying that he needed to figure himself out first. Nonetheless, we continued to communicate daily while I sold his car for him, sent him the last of his forgotten belongings, and handled his paperwork. All the while, he was out drinking and trying to meet women at clubs, detailing his escapades to me. In the summer, he invited me to visit him so we could see how he felt after some time alone. I went, but not much had changed. The good times remained truly good while the bad times still felt unbearable. We continued to keep in touch after my return, but I think that marked my breaking point. It also seemed to become a pivotal moment for him. After my vacation, I met someone at work, and we began spending time together. This is where I still ponder how I should have navigated the situation. My ex now appeared to want to reconcile, apologizing for his past behavior and claiming he could improve. I wanted to believe him, but I could not bring myself to do so despite my efforts. I spent countless hours crying, feeling utterly broken. I informed the man I met at work that I was not prepared to pursue anything beyond friendship at that moment. We took walks together, but it was evident he desired more. After a few weeks, I asked him what he would think if I wanted something more too. I was still unprepared, but he was elated. The next day, I told him that I was not yet ready. My ex was still in contact with me, asking whether we could at least be friends, operating under the impression that he could win me back at some point. Meanwhile, the man from work was now giving me the silent treatment when I attempted to engage him again. I recognized that what I did was wrong. He was aware of my ex, and I tried to convey that I needed closure first, but that was when he mentioned he planned to return to his home country anyway. To complicate matters further, my ex now wanted to come to Germany solely so I could tell him in person that I could not be with him anymore, believing I would not follow through. I felt completely trapped. I did not want him to leave, but I also did not want to push anything. I asked him to stay and told him that I liked him, I just needed time. My ex began calling me frantically, threatening to harm himself or me and everything in between. I felt utterly terrible knowing I was hurting both of them. I hesitated to rush into a relationship I was not ready for, yet I genuinely liked him. It has been over 2 years now, and he still harbors resentment toward me for how we initially got together. He believes I was being cold and playing games with his emotions. I have attempted to explain and apologize, but that resentment lingers. Perhaps it is due to this that he continues to invent new reasons to dislike me, most of which are either misunderstandings or simply did not occur. However, I cannot provide proof of that. Have you ever tried to prove a negative? It is impossible. Now I am lying here after yet another argument about something that never occurred. He is now my husband, who very clearly despises me and blames me for all the misfortune in his life. I recognize that I bear some responsibility, but I continually wonder, is it truly me? I do not believe abusers are entirely aware of their actions. In their minds, everything likely makes perfect sense. I do not think anyone would characterize themselves as a bad person. So perhaps in this scenario, I am that bad person, and I deserve this wretched life. The one thing keeping me alive at this moment is my daughter. If anyone has taken the time to read all of this, I appreciate it. It felt good to express my feelings.